As many. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. Given I'm running out of time, I want a 10-minute warning. Ms. Deputy, before I start, allow me to wish all fathers happy Father's Day, which is this weekend, and I won't have the opportunity again. So I wish them all happy Father's Day. David, that clock can't be running. I ain't start yet.
We'll hold the clock until you're ready, Kalani.
I was waiting for them to leave. I was waiting. Mr. Deputy, I rise today to give my contribution on behalf of the constituents of Kalani constituency, whom I have pledged to continue to serve throughout this term. I offer my contribution to the bills that make up the 2024-25 budget debate. And before I begin my remarks, I want to first congratulate your love and your support help sustain me in my fight for better governance for the Bahamian people. I also thank my campaign team for all their hard work. And finally, and most importantly, I thank my wife, Patricia, and my family for their continued support. Their support, Mr. Deputy, is at the heart of so much that we have achieved together in the service of the residents of Kalani and, more importantly, the Bahamian people. Let me be absolutely clear. I will do all that I can to assure an FNM victory in the next election. We will work tirelessly to defeat this greedy, secretive, inept, unaccountable government. And Mr. Deputy, the budget is usually the most important debate in Parliament each year. As others have said, a national budget is a moral document. It is a moral document because it reveals the values, the principles, and priorities of a nation and of the government of the day. It answers questions such as to how the poor and the vulnerable are cared for and lifted up. It answers questions such as the priority given to youth development, small business development, health care reform, and other measures affecting our people. The national budget, Mr. Deputy, is when the government sets out its plan for the upcoming fiscal year and details the expenditure of the people's money. We should always remember that is the people's money. It's not your money, that's the people's money, and not a piggy bank to serve narrow self-interest. This is why a budget must be transparent and a budget must be clear. There should not be numbers missing or strange numbers that do not add up and do not make sense. And no Prime Minister or Minister of Finance should ever blame their speechwriters for a mistake. Budget numbers should not be cloaked and wrapped in fast talk and secrecy. Reasonable projections must be made instead of pie in the sky and giddy talk, not sustained by the economic and financial facts. Mr. Deputy, the budget process began this year with an embarrassing episode for the country. A reporter challenged the veracity of the financial secretary's various contradictory comments regarding the JDL Cargo Management Company. Along with my colleagues, I previously raised questions about this firm in this very place. And these questions, Mr. Deputy, have still not been answered. They are of grave concern. Mr. Deputy, let me explain why this is so important. Customs has the responsibility of monitoring whatever enters this country. They are the first to observe and has the responsibility of ensuring that our country is safe. That responsibility has been usurped, and a new company, JDL, has taken on customs responsibility in spite of the Management Act, the law that is very clear. This company, Mr. Deputy, was proposed in 2012, 2013 to the then Prime Minister Perry Christie, who refused recognizing the challenges that it would bring forth to this nation. And now, every package coming into a freight terminal must first be held by this JDL entity. And every package, Mr. Deputy, is charged 20 cents per pound. But the Prime Minister talks about inflation, about managing inflation. But this is an inflationary method, because every package is 20 cents per pound. In addition to that, they have no equipment other than a weighing scale. Mr. Deputy, I went and observed myself, and I took pictures. A weighing scale, that's all they have. Then, packages in the bonded area was charged initially, before this illegal entity, $4 per square foot. Now this illegal entity is charging $40 per square foot, plus VAT. That must be paid for by the consumer. So they have a 20-cent charge plus VAT. Then there's a $40 charge plus VAT. And Mr. Deputy, after 5 o'clock, there's overtime. Custom has the right to charge overtime, of which they do. JDL, in addition, charges overtime. So the customer pays overtime for JDL and for customs, double dipping. So there's 3 additional charges that the customer incurs. And today, couriers are going out of business because they cannot afford these additional charges. Mr. Deputy, what is important is this company is owned or managed by Pete DeVoe. That's quite recorded. This is the same entity when I became Prime Minister, whom I had FTI investigated with respect to the computers that were brought into this country. They were acting as middlemen through this XUA company and bringing in computers for government. The financial secretary was asked quite a number of questions by the investigative team, FTI, which was brought from New York, I think. And today, though there was no bidding process for how these computers were purchased or which company was selected to purchase such computers. There's no bidding process. But the same entities that was investigated under my government in 2018 are the same entities involved in the JDL. Mr. Deputy, that is very, very suspicious. And this is adding to inflation. That must stop. If you like the Bahamian people, for God's sake, stop this illegal entity from usurping the job of customs. Let customs do and follow through the Customs Management Act. Do not subject the Bahamian people to this additional inflationary cost when the government is saying they want to reduce inflation. Yes, we have the international inflation. We have the Brave Davis inflation with breadbasket item, etc. Now, for God's sake, we have the JDL inflation. We cannot take anymore. It must stop. But, Mr. Deputy, to go on a little further, and I must say that everything I say today, I have the backup documents and the files. Mr. Deputy, I await the report. From the Ministry of Finance with respect to 16 containers that were brought into this country, presumably by some Sean McKenzie. When the investigation occurred, one of the individuals who were questioned, his exact words, Mr. Deputy, allow me to state from the records, his exact words. He indicated that there were high-ups involved in the facilitation of these containers within the Ministry of Finance and the Bahamas Customs Department. When will we get the official investigative report? Who are responsible? Who are these high officials in customs? Who are these high officials within the Ministry of Finance? The investigation is finished, but it's being swept under the table. We need to know what has happened to the investigation. And Mr. Deputy, there are videotapes of a Ministry of Finance personnel in a Kia car. I wouldn't go any further. A Kia car. Who went and was there on tape for minutes, but yet there was no custom officer doing their job. And you know what was in some of the containers, Mr. Deputy? Let me get the exact number. Items. Alcohol. Now, what would these bear call now? Because I don't drink. The bud, that's what they call it. Bud. I don't drink, so I don't know these things. But $567,430.35 of bud beer and other contrabands. Other. Where is the report? Now, I know, presumably, who the high custom officials were. That's why custom personnel were transferred. I know who the Ministry of Finance are, but I want the Prime Minister to tell us. And the rest of the files, where my bag? I get it. No, that's all for now. But, Mr. Deputy, this is a matter that must be dealt with. But, Mr. Deputy, what unfolded. Well, I want to say one more thing about the JDL. The JDL do not have the equipments that they say that they would have. But, Mr. Deputy, they're charging the $2, they're charging the $40, they're charging the overtime. They're making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. That is the money they're going to use, our money, to purchase their supplies and equipment. So who's buying, who's funding them? Us, the taxpayers. They're not coming up with anything. Us, the taxpayers, are funding them through these entities. And then they would purchase what they need. Where is the contract? It's a no-bid contract. No-bid contract. Mr. Deputy, I can go on, but time is running out. But what unfolded at OPM recently was unbecoming and unprofessional behavior by the financial secretary. It took place in the office of the Prime Minister. The financial secretary confronted the reporter in a manner that made it seem as if he wanted to assault the reporter. The Minister of Economic Affairs had to hold back the financial secretary. And the financial secretary went as far as telling the reporter he would wait for him outside. In our nation, reeling with so much crime and violence, the financial secretary's abusive behavior sent a terrible message. And the Prime Minister runs a slack operation at OPM. The Prime Minister should have immediately asked for the financial secretary's resignation. The Prime Minister should have directly spoken about this incident. Instead, a weak as water statement of apology was released. Mr. Deputy, the financial secretary also sent the wrong message to the public service, the media, labor unions, the business community, international partners, and others who have to work with both the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Finance. Because he was upset, he wanted to fight. He wanted to fight and throw blows. There's too much of this mindset in our country already. Excessive hostility, Mr. Deputy, and the inability to solve conflicts peacefully are behind much of the violence in our country today. And leaving the financial secretary in place means that the Prime Minister condones such behavior. And the Prime Minister is his boss. Even though, and listen to me, even though the financial secretary acts and behaves as if he is really the Minister of Finance. Now I could go through and give numbers of examples, but unfortunately I only have 1 hour and time running. We have seen this slackness before. The member for Elizabeth did not have to resign while she was investigated for allegedly assaulting a police officer. The former immigration minister did not have to resign from cabinet when serious questions were raised about his conduct with some Chinese workers. If you are tight with the Prime Minister, you have nothing to worry about. It seems, Mr. Deputy, you can do as you please. The financial secretary should be removed from his post forthwith due to his conduct. There is little doubt that the financial secretary will once again cause major problems for his supposed boss and for the government. Mr. Deputy, Davis administration is known around the country as being for PLPs first and Bahamians last. The Prime Minister and his traveling companions have seen the world several times over at taxpayers' expense. And they have 2.5 years to go, with many more millions to be spent on first-class tickets, luxury suites, meals, sightseeing tours, and cocktail parties. It is always fun day in the PLP. They're having plenty of fun, even as most Bahamians are juggling food, light, health care, and other bills. Mr. Deputy, if you ask the average Bahamians today, are you better off today than yesterday? They will say no. They are not better off today. They will tell you that crime is the problem. It's gone up. They will tell you that the cost of living is higher. Food is more expensive. They will tell you that the light bills are more expensive. They will tell you that medicine is more expensive. And there are shortage of medicines within the hospital. They will tell you that health care has deteriorated. And they will tell you that it's becoming very frustrated to establish a business in this country and receive business license. They will tell you that the stress level in this country has gone up. They will tell you that gas prices has gone up. And they will tell you, Mr. Deputy, and this word is in the Bible, that they are catching hell, utter hell. There are many nights individuals have no food. There are individuals in my constituency, Kalani, whose light and water are off. And early in the morning, they drive to the pump because they don't want people to know. They drive to the pump, they fill up the buckets, take in their cars, and carry back to their homes. People are catching hell. PLP contractors have gotten rich with the large number of contracts they have received. They ride around the country now with new cars and trucks, gold chains, fancy watches, thanks to this new day administration. Then there are scores of PLP consultants. They get tens and tens of millions of dollars per year too. This administration now thinks PLP consultants need more. The newspapers have highlighted the issue. On June 4, 2024, the Nassau Guardian ran a story headlined, "Consultants' Budgets Hiked." The story begins, "The government has allocated $76.6 million for consultancy service in the upcoming fiscal year, an increase of $12.1 million compared to the last fiscal year. It is important that stories like this are written to highlight the nature of the Davis administration. This governing party taxes the people, raises fees, and then spends lavishly, and throw an entity like JTL on us. The Prime Minister gave a major speech on inequality some months ago. What he failed to say is that he has no real agenda to address inequality. Indeed, his policies and that of the PLP have made inequality worse. Inequality has gotten worse. Cost of living. 3 factors are affecting the cost of living: the world inflation, the Davis inflation, and the JDL inflation. The PLP is distributing money from the poor and the vulnerable and the Bahamian middle class to PLP, fat cats, contractors, and consultants. They have made inequality worse by taxing breadbasket items. and by getting rid of the fuel hedge, which made light bills go through the roof. The stark and disturbing truth is that there was never a new PLP. It was always and remains the same old needy status quo PLP of years gone by. The PLP is the very essence of the status quo. They're the party of entitlement and all for me, baby. A few different faces, but the same PLP. Nothing has changed. They are the very definition of status quo. Mr. Deputy, the Prime Minister boasted about total revenue being up for the first 9 months of the current fiscal year by $112.4 million. What is sad is that rather than use this money for the betterment of the people, the administration keeps giving more and more and more to PLPs. As the NASA Guardian reported, I quote, the Ministry of Tourism, Investments and Aviation's allocation has been increased from $5.1 million to $9.8 million. This is an increase of $4,700,000. What is the rationale for this? Who is this money going to? Why has the budget for consultants in the Ministry of Tourism almost doubled? With tourism being a corporate soul, we need to see what is really going on. I call on this secret government to supply the House with the names of every consultant and consultancy service with the amount already paid and be paid for all consultants hired by the government. Every government requires consultants. Nevertheless, what is being done by the PLP is way, way out of control. Mr. Deputy, speaking of waste, the Bahamian people, especially the residents of Grand Bahama, were shocked by the Prime Minister's budget communication on the purchase of the old International Bazaar site in Freeport. Now, I know the challenges there with the International Bazaar. It's a long time ago, when I was young and more vibrant. I presented a proposal to buy the International Bazaar, but recognizing the challenges there, I chose not to proceed with trying to buy the International Bazaar. Grand Bahama has its challenges. The island never fully recovered from back-to-back hurricanes 2 decades ago. The COVID-19 pandemic set back the island's restoration. Investment has not been what any of us hoped for. What was once vibrant became derelict. Demolitions have occurred, but much of the old bustling city of Freeport lies abandoned. Now listen to this. The Prime Minister, Freetown, I need you to listen to this. The Prime Minister announced initially in his budget communication that in the upcoming fiscal year, they intend to source $30 million to fund the purchase of the old International Bazaar, along with the reopening of West Sunrise Highway. Then, $30 million. Then, in his contribution to open debate, the Prime Minister had a different story. He said they were purchasing Princess Towers Hotel, the West Sunrise Road, and the Old Bazaar site for under $4 million. This is the Prime Minister who clearly does not know what is going on in his government. Then again, most Bahamians believe that the Financial Secretary is really in charge, which is why he cannot be sent home. How do you send yourself home? Not unless you're sick. The Prime Minister comes in here one day with one figure, then has another that is $26 million another day. $26 million different another day. He should stay at his desk and work more and travel less so he knows what is going on in that ministry. The PLP, while last in opposition, rallied against us for buying the Grand Lucayan in Grand Bahama. We purchased the hotel to save jobs and arrest further economic decline on our second most populous island. They criticized us in every way possible. Now, Mr. Deputy, look at them. They want to buy up all kinds of property to intervene in Freeport. This is hypocrisy, hypocrisy at its worst. Additionally, the Davis administration is saying the government of the Bahamas is going to rebuild and run some revitalized Afro-Caribbean marketplace at the bazaar site. Everyone knows how well the government runs certain things. Mr. Deputy, you know, I've always said, once politicians walk beyond that bar, it's like their educational level moved from C to A+. They suddenly know everything. They never ran a toffee shop in their life, and suddenly they're running multi-million-dollar agencies, and they want to tell people, no, this is wrong, this should be done. But yet they can't manage a toffee shop. You better go in the ghetto and ask them, yeah? Everyone knows the New Day If you don't know, go right there on Market Street. Anybody, Market Street, or anywhere within the city, can tell you. And if you don't know, go to Market Street, just south of Peter Street, and look for Ms. Reming. Ms. Reming could tell you. The people of Grand Bahama and the wider Bahamas have no confidence that the government can revitalize and run the bazaar area. This area, Mr. Deputy, seems like yet another PLP fantasy that will come to be a waste of taxpayers' money. Mr. Deputy, the Prime Minister says he has been trying to tackle inflation. It's the Prime Minister's words. He has been trying to tackle inflation. The facts say otherwise. As I said before, stop this JDL inflationary illegal process. Perry Christie denied it in 2012, 2013. It's wrong. As I said before, his irresponsible decisions to not follow the hedge was left in place. The hedge we left in place at BPL, and his uncaring decision to add VAT to bread basket foods and medicines have made inflation worse. Bahamians have been battling high prices the past few years. Inflation continues out of control. Many have seen their savings eroded or wiped out. I went to the supermarket the other day just to buy a few items, cheese and crackers, few items. You come out. You come out. Y'all trying to waste my time. Mr. Deputy.
Order, members.
You pay a lot of money, and you walk out. You don't even require a bag because you could hold items in your two hands. Two hands. And that's what people are experiencing. Many people who were at the counter were sending things back or putting aside, no, not this, not that. That's what this country is coming to. That's what this country is coming to. People are suffering. They cannot buy basic food items. While you in here laughing, while people are there starving. This is a serious matter. This is a serious matter. Many have seen their savings eroded or wiped out. Working Bahamians had to make cuts in order to afford the high prices. Meanwhile, Prime Minister rides around in his approximately $250,000 BMW and flies around the world first class, unable to feel or understand what his people are going through. The Prime Minister has done a good job protecting PLPs from inflation. All the contracts, jobs, and consultancies have meant PLPs have had the money to deal with the high prices. The New Day was always only about themselves. Bahamians should remember that. The PLP is not progressive. It is not liberal. It is a club of the entitled that exists to take care of its own. PLP's first is their real motto. That has been the case with all three leaders. Mr. Deputy, sadly, after so many promises and so much talk, Davis administration has not been able to bring forward policies to address our crime problem. We are on pace to have one of the highest murder counts in our history. The killers seem undeterred by the administration's lackluster crime-fighting agenda. Shootings happen day and night. They happen in business areas, the inner city, middle-class areas, and nearly everywhere else in New Providence. At last report, the Commissioner of Police told the media last month that murders were up by 13%. Yet another budget is passing, and the Davis administration still has no clue as to how to reduce crime. Bahamians deserve better. They deserve better than this from the elected officials. I have said this before, and I will say it again. We need to think more holistically about crime prevention. Police and court resources and prison reform are all essential. However, they are largely after-the-fact components of the crime problem. We need to prevent more of our young people from entering the life of crime. We have the resources to invest in such life-giving initiatives. In our last manifesto, we proposed the creation of a universal after-school program. Our vision was for the government to provide resources to approved after-school initiatives around the country to ensure more children can enroll free of cost. For example, if an approved sailing program had 50 private students and they could handle 50 more, the government should fund an additional 50 students free of cost. If a track program has 60 students and could handle 30 more, the government could fund an additional 30 students free of cost. We would also pay for any materials or uniforms needed. We wanted to do this on a national scale, adding thousands of children to quality after-school programs. The pandemic taught us that the state can do big things when it is focused and determined. We created the biggest food program in Bahamian history. Similarly, we need to do big and bold things to combat crime and to address our social problems on the order and scale of the food distribution program we had during the pandemic. I commend the Davis administration for the expanded feeding program in public schools. We proposed in our manifesto to have a full universal school food program in all government-operated schools. The PLP has taken a part of this idea. I advise them to be bold, be truly brave, and take the whole FNM idea. Similarly, it would be wonderful if the PLP adopted our after-school plan. They could use some of the money from the consultancy budget. If they implement the after-school program, I would support you. But our after-school program included a sports component, an academic component. Sports keep our nation healthy and minimize the chronic non-communicable diseases at a later stage. And the academic to ensure that our students have assistance after school with their homework, etc. Because many of us growing up did not have the studying or academic environment to do homework, etc. But this program would have allowed students to be under supervision by teachers or teachers' aid, so by the time they leave school, they would have completed their studies, their work. And lunch or food, something, snack, would have been provided for them, even in the after-school program. And a third component of that, Mr. Deputy, was at least 15 minutes twice per week. You'd have individuals come in to teach the student about crime, teach them about finance, teach them about the Constitution, teach them about conflict resolution, and teach them about matters that are important in our country. I would be happy to stand next to the Prime Minister when such a program is launched. We need big, we need bold and sustained investments in young people to break the back of this long-standing crime problem. We need bipartisan initiatives that span administrations. The governing side is planning on wasting all kinds of money in the upcoming fiscal year. Instead of doing that, put the money in our young people. Put the money in our future. Mr. Deputy, I last raised the issue of the Davis administration's decision to send Bahamians to Haiti in a multinational force during the immigration bill debate. There have been notable developments since then. Haiti remains in a state of disorder and mass chaos. Law and order have broken down in Port-au-Prince, with gangs controlling 90% of the capital. However, Haiti now has a new prime minister. The advance team of Kenya's police force has visited Haiti to conduct an initial assessment. They found not enough is present to support a large force at this time. More work is needed. Kenya has pledged to lead the multinational force, sending 1,000 police officers. As I have outlined in this place before, the Bahamas has had a long and shifting set of positions on Haiti. The initial statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on August 1st, 2023, just said we would send 150 people to support the multinational force. Days later, the Minister of National Security said in a statement released to the media that if deployed, the Bahamian troops would offer technical assistance and training to the Haitian National Police. Let's fast forward a year now. The Minister of National Security told the Nassau Guardian on March 6, 2024, that the Bahamian troops would be involved with maritime security. Now, there is yet another new position. In the Tribune, May 24, 2024, In the story headlined, no more than 5 RBDF officers go into Haiti. That's the headline, quote, no more than 5 RBDF officers go into Haiti, end quote. The Defense Force Commodore said no more than 5 of his officers are going to Haiti. He also emphasized that the help with maritime training would happen at the Defense Force base here in New Providence, not Haiti. The small team of 5 or fewer going to Haiti would assist with administrative matters, he added. It is unfortunate and odd that this policy change was announced by the Commodore. It should have been announced by the Prime Minister. But I guess the Prime Minister was scared to make the announcement after all of his administration's flip-flops on this issue. There is no plan for this overall multinational intervention. Bahamians do not support sending our men and women to Haiti into chaos with no plan. I am pleased, Mr. Deputy, that we are not sending 150 Defense Force officers into the violent chaos of Haiti. Mr. Deputy, just want to speak to my constituents. I asked the Minister of Works, the seawall opposite Sea Beach, west of Nesbitt, could you kindly complete that seawall? Any strong storm or surge, our road in the West Bay area would collapse. It's compromised. I know that there were challenges before, and I understand that those challenges have now been resolved. Kindly protect our West Bay Street corridor and the adjoining homes. The seawall needs to be completed. Then very soon, every year, Gambia has their graduation and prize giving to outstanding students. I attend that every year, and my constituents or my association, we ensure that whoever is the most outstanding student in Gambia is given a $300 donation from us, $300 for the number 1 student, $200 for the number 2 student, and $100 for the number 3 student. And I look forward, it's a yearly event, and I look forward to attending that again. We are continuing our CCTV camera program throughout the community, and we are continuing our ring bell initiative, as a lot of individuals had come and collected their ring bell, the doorbell, and we still have a few more left. I look forward, I want to remind the minister that it's now been well over a year and a half that we've submitted for the Tropical Garden Park name to be changed to Sister Curry's Park, the most longest standing resident within the community. It was a unanimous decision. There was nobody against or opposed, and we're still waiting approval for this so that we can rename the park from Tropical Garden to Sister Curry. And there are a series of road repairs between Sapodilla, the store, and as far as Sandy Port. There was quite a number of sections of the road that was dug up, and sooner or later it'll cause accident because cars are verging, directing themselves outward bound to avoid these large holes, and there are at least about 6 that needs to repair, and also problem on the Skyline Drive Road also suffering the same ill effect. Mr. Deputy, as I noted at the beginning of my presentation, a national budget is a moral document. It is a moral document, because it reveals the values, it reveals the principles and the priorities of a nation and of the government of the day. And while this budget does not address a variety of goals shared by the government and the opposition, there are parts in this budget which continue to harm the Bahamian people, including tax on bread basket items and taxes on medication. The leader of the opposition has pledged that the FNM will remove this burden from Bahamians. It is clear from this budget that millions for PLP consultants and millions for travel are a greater priority than the programs to help reduce crime and to give great opportunities for young Bahamians in need of help. I close my remarks by once again making a plea for the poor, the vulnerable, and at-risk youth, and for the many Bahamians left out of this budget. We need more than speeches about inequality from the Prime Minister. We need action, dedicated funds that are missing from this budget, which, despite the public relations, is more of the same. This is truly, Mr. Deputy, a visionless, status quo, uninspiring budget. I only want to put forth a suggestion. As many people, stress level is increasing. Stress level is increasing. The Minister of Health spoke about the challenges with mental issues, and I commend him aggressively and progressively approaching it, recognizing that that is a serious issue. But many people are hurting. People have bills go way back, time immemorial, that they cannot pay. They do not have the money to pay. They try and remain current. But at the same time, their emotional, their stress level is increasing because they know that they still have that bill. And then we wonder why our chronic non-communicable diseases are going up. Those bills and the effects of the stress, they have a direct impact on chronic non-communicable diseases that the minister spoke about. And those chronic non-communicable diseases have a direct impact on the hospital facility. And that have a direct impact on the utilization of medicine. So we can stop this domino effect. Why can't, this is a suggestion, if you truly love the Bahamian people, and if you truly want to help them, why can't we declare a tax jubilee relief? Let's start with national insurance. Individuals owe thousands and thousands of dollars, businesses, to national insurance that they cannot pay. They were there for 10, 12 years. They cannot pay. But yet they cannot get their businesses going because they are held back by these bills that they cannot pay. You know they can't pay. I know they cannot pay. They know they cannot pay.
Member, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Yes.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the business of the House will continue beyond 7 p.m. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of the House will continue beyond 7 p.m. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Freetown. That's why I like you so much. You're always on the ball. You are a good man. If I was in Freetown, I might vote for you. But, Mr. Deputy, why should we continue to allow them to be stressed and disturbed? Let us declare a tax jubilee relief for those individuals so that all outstanding bills that are beyond 3 years Write them off. Write them off. Let us press the reset button. Let's start a new country. Let's press that reset button. I'm not in that category. But the bills that are within 3 years, write off all the interest and arrange something so that they can remain current and get their business started, their stress level down, their blood pressure down, their heart rate down, the demand for hospital care down, the problem with chronic non-communicable diseases down. You would help yourself. You would save the monies that you're trying to get. You would save millions and millions of dollars. So let's do a tax jubilee relief, but not only for national insurance, but let's look at utilities also. There are individuals who has bills out there for 10 years, they can't pay it. You know they can't pay it, they know they can't pay it. Let's also declare tax jubilee relief for them. All bills beyond 3 years, erase. Give them a new start in life. If you love Bahamians like you say, let us give them a new start of life. Now, you may not want to accept my idea, but modify it in the PLP way. I don't care. Modify it. But the point is, we're helping Bahamians. We're helping the middle class. We're helping businesses. We're helping the poor. And all bills that are within 3 years, 3-year span, remove all interest and come to an agreement how they are to pay it and have their lights and everything turn on and remain current. And I know that there will be moral hazards and implication, but the Bible always say you should help. Love thy neighbors. You should help. Love thy neighbors. The Bible said, love thy neighbors as you love yourself. Help the Bahamian people. Those who are complaining, those who would complain morally that they have been paying and therefore it's unfair. But what would happen if you don't do it? Those who are paying will end up paying more taxes because of the stress on the institutions, the stress on the hospital, the stress on the population, the inflationary changes. So let's stop the domino effect and help our brothers. There are many other suggestions I can give at this point in time, but you are the government. You are the government. I would ask you, though, one more thing before I close. We had a program. We went on a recruitment program where we wanted to have a 10, 15-year plan that we were going to have within the government sector the best and the brightest Bahamian. And we started with Ministry of Finance, where we went to UB and asked them in finance to identify your 4 best students, your top 4 students. And those individuals, we offered job to the Ministry of Finances. Deputy, it's important, allow me to finish this. Those 4 individuals, that's my 10 minutes? Those 4 individuals were offered jobs in the Ministry of Finance at a higher salary. They were also offered, after 1 year, to attend any of the Ivy League school for a master's degree that would be relevant for our country in finance, economics, etc., at all expense paid by the government. Their job was to come back within the ministry. And we were doing that for every ministry, so that in health, you go and recruit from UB or other institutions to get the top level. We do the same thing for education. We do the same thing for social services. For every ministry, we take the best, offer them job, ensure they get a master's degree, and they come back. So that 10 to 15 years from today, we have the best and the brightest within the government sector. And we wanted to move away from this system of permanent secretary. We don't want you permanent. We want you to move into the private sector. We don't want you permanent. We want you to move into the private sector. So a part of the program, permanent secretaries, we were in discussion, would rotate to Canada or the UK for about 3 months, so that they would understand how government sectors throughout the world run. And then after 3 months, they would come back into our system. And then they would rotate into the private sector for 3 months. So that they would have the international government exposure as well as the private sector exposure. Our thinking was that the private sector would recognize that these are individuals who are the best and the brightest. These are individuals who were exposed to other government structures. These are individuals who understand the Bahamian government structure. And these are individuals who would benefit the private sector. The goal and the objective was that the private sector would take them away from government so that 10, 15 years from today, all the best and the brightest would be in government, and all the CEOs, managers, and presidents in the private sector would be Bahamians. Consider it. It's a plan we started. It was working. We were planning 15 years from the day that all CEOs and managers in this country would have been Bahamians. We don't want to hear no foreigners, Bahamians. Mr. Deputy, I thank you. God bless you. God bless the residents of Kalani. God bless the Bahamas. And we look forward for a continuous debate in this budget. And I hope that they would release that report soon so that those matters can be dealt with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Freetown.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, it may seem facetious, but I wonder if Kalani has any documents he wishes to table. Saying that you have all these documents, you should have the report, you should have... Yes. I want to read them. It's the 11th of June.
Order that the documents be brought up. Some documents he did.